Hey guys, Jonathan Wazet here for JM Sports 100, the JM Sports Show. How is it going? I am here to make NFL picks for Week 2 in the 2015 NFL season. We are coming off a week last week that saw us go 10-6 to kick off the year. We are 0-1 on the week. This week we had Kansas City beating Denver. That pick was made on the JM Sports Show Facebook page. Good game there. Denver wins the game late 31-24 after a Jamal Charles fumble that was returned for a touchdown to break a tie in a game that Kansas City dominated and Denver didn't see the lead until late in that game when they took the 31-24 lead. So with that, we are 10-7 on the year, and we are 779, 452, and 3 lifetime. This is hopefully the last time you're going to see an NFL pick video made like this. Uh, Hopefully I don't feel real well today. I think I'm starting to get cold, so I decided to just do one video. But once I start feeling better, I am going to just do each game individually. That way, if there's a specific pick you're looking for, you don't have to sit through it and wait until I get to it. Okay, let's get to the picks. Now I'm going to go against the public in a lot of these because I think a lot of it, week one usually has a lot of overreaction. I think there was a lot of overreaction last week. So let's get right to it, starting with the Falcons and the Giants. Now, I didn't see the Falcons winning on Monday night last week, and of course the Giants are coming off of the heartbreaking loss to Dallas in the final seconds on Sunday night. And I like the Giants in this game. I think the Giants are the better team. I don't think Atlanta is great, and I don't think the way they played or what we saw from them on Monday night was indicative of what they are. And same thing goes for the Giants. The Giants are a really good team. They dominate. They I don't want to say dominated. They played well in that game on Sunday, and you can question why they didn't run the ball, uh, and they probably should have. But stumbling through this already, the Giants are not going to be very happy coming off of that loss, and Matt Ryan is not that great outside of the Georgia Dome. I've got the Giants winning the game. Let's move on because I stumbled past that one horribly. Next up, we got the New England Patriots, Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a much better game than people think. And people in Buffalo are treating this game like a huge game, and really it is. Buffalo really has a chance to compete with New England here. This seems like one of those situations where New England could possibly have a letdown, like they kind of have against Miami, coming off of a big emotional win last week against Pittsburgh with all the Tom Brady stuff. Plus, you look at who the Buffalo Bills have as their head coach in Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan obviously knows Belichick really well, obviously knows the Patriots really well. He did show that in his time with the Jets. A lot of people are actually calling for an upset here. I'm not going to. I think the Patriots win. I think they win a very, very tight football game. Next up, we've got the Arizona Cardinals and the Chicago Bears. Bears coming off of that loss to the Packers last week. Cardinals coming off of that back and forth game they had with the Saints in Arizona. Chicago surprised me with the way they looked last week. I didn't think they were going to look as good as they did. Cutler really played pretty well, let's be honest. Defensively is where Chicago had a lot of their struggles last week, and I think that will happen again. However, this game I think has a chance to be tight with Ellington being down for Arizona, um, and I think the Chicago Bears defense is going to tighten up a little bit. John Fox is eventually going to turn that team around. It's not going to be this year. Is Cutler the answer? I still don't think he is. I know a couple of years ago I said he was, and then I retracted it because I admitted that I whiffed on it. I think the Cardinals win this game. I think it's once again a really tight football game. I think we have a good week of NFL football this week. San Diego Chargers, Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, I think, are kind of trending down a little bit. Yeah, they had a good performance last week. They played the Raiders, okay? Settle down. San Diego, comeback win to beat the Detroit Lions down big late in that game. The Lions did what the Lions do and found a way to lose a game that they shouldn't have. I still think San Diego is a better team. I think San Diego goes to Cincinnati and gets the win. Tennessee and Cleveland. Marcus Mariota, who couldn't have been impressed with the way he played. Even though he was playing against Tampa last week, I don't think anybody could have expected him to play there. I just noticed my microphone was down. Hopefully, you guys heard me okay up until this point. I don't think anybody expected Mariota to play as well as he did. Cleveland, meanwhile, is going to go with Johnny Manziel to start at quarterback in this game. You tell me. I've got Tennessee winning the game. I'm not confident either way. Not really much to say about it. Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings. This game is very, very interesting because really you're going to have two very, very ticked off football teams with Detroit losing against San Diego like they did, and the way Minnesota played against San Francisco, even though that was not a highly contested, a tight game. Neither one of them played well in that Monday night game. Minnesota got ripped from coaches all week long for the way that they played. Minnesota is going to play with a fire. Detroit is going to play with a fire. Whose fire burns a little stronger? I've got the Lions getting the win, but I expect Minnesota to play a pretty good football game. The Rams and the Redskins. Rams coming off of that big win against Seattle last week. It could be a problem for them. Now, they're used to playing Seattle tough. Seattle really seems to struggle with them. Meanwhile, you've got the Redskins. The Redskins, one of those teams, once again, where I thought they were going to play against Miami and get completely dominated. And really, they didn't. They stuck in that game, obviously had a chance to win that game, and just couldn't get it done. I think the Rams will be a little high coming off of the Seattle win, not too high. I've got the Rams getting the win. Next up, you've got the Buccaneers and the Saints. Holy wow, I can't believe I'm saying this after one game, but Lovie Smith is in a lot of trouble. I was not impressed with the way Jameis Winston looked in his debut. I don't think he's going to play much better on the road against New Orleans. That's a tough place to play, obviously, in the Dome. That team looks dysfunctional. Meanwhile, the Saints coming off that loss to the Cardinals, as I stated earlier. Here's the thing about really what happened last week, and it you're going to see it a lot this week. Just a lot of ticked off football teams. Like New Orleans, going to be another one. I think the Saints roll the Buccaneers. Next up, you've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Pittsburgh. Don't get too high on San Francisco too quick. Like I said, they didn't play very well on Monday night, even though if you just looked at the score, you thought, yeah, the Niners played pretty well. They really didn't. Meanwhile, the Steelers. Here's the deal: the Steelers' defense looked awful last week. The good news is for them, they don't have to try to cover Gronk, which is something that they failed to do last week a lot, and it bit them for 2 touchdowns. Uh, Meanwhile, San Francisco is traveling from the West Coast. That never goes well. It really doesn't go well on a short week. I think Pittsburgh wins this game. I don't think it's close. Next up, we have Houston and Carolina. After one game, it seems like the public has kind of given up on Houston. I'm not. Okay, they came back in that game against Kansas City, and Kansas City is a very good football team. Last week or last night didn't change their opinion on me at all. Meanwhile, Carolina, they're just they're not good. I know they're 1-0. They beat Jacksonville. They're not good. That's all you can really say about it. I've got the Texans beating the Panthers. Baltimore and Oakland. I had said that Oakland was going to be competitive this year. Um, I don't necessarily know that I believe that anymore, especially with Carr being banged up. Baltimore coming off of a loss, or coming really, off of a loss against Denver that honestly they should have won. They were able to get down in the red zone late, had an opportunity to win that game, and it just didn't happen for them. I've got Baltimore beating Oakland up and down the field all Sunday long. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are a disaster. Okay, they're the Jaguars facing the Dolphins. That Dolphins defense is going to give Blake Bortles fits. Dolphins win big. Next up, we've got the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. This seems like a spot where the Cowboys play the collapse game. High emotional last second win against the Giants. Philadelphia, here's the deal. They're really, really good. okay, they're really, really good. Chip Kelly has them rolling right. I know they lost on Monday night. It's not that big of a deal. I've got the Eagles beating the Cowboys, and I don't know that they'll beat them handily. I think it'll be a typical NFC East matchup where the Eagles will win it late, but I think the Eagles do get the win. That'll bring us to our Sunday night game: Seattle Seahawks, Green Bay Packers. Seattle needs Cam Chancellor. That's all there is to it. They need Cam Chancellor, and they need him bad. Uh, and because that is obviously a huge loss for them. Meanwhile, the Packers announced on Friday they have a huge loss coming as well. Brian Balaga is out for the Packers with a sprained MCL. That is a huge loss for them on their offensive line. Meanwhile, the Packers offense looks really, really good. James Jones, obviously, really good. And basically, it's going to be another game of keep the ball away from Richard Sherman's side of the field unless Rodgers decides to challenge him, which with the way Sherman looked at times last week, Rodgers may be tempted to do. That defense for Seattle doesn't look as great. The offense didn't look great. I don't like the way they used Jimmy Graham last week against the Rams. I saw it in a story earlier this week, and I completely agree with it. If they use Jimmy Graham a lot like they used him last week, the Packers will roll in this game. I don't think the Packers roll. I think it's tight, but it's at Lambeau. That obviously I think helps Green Bay a ton. I've got the Packers getting the win in their home opener against the Seahawks, which brings us to Monday night. Not much to say about it. New York Jets in Indianapolis Colts. Um, the Colts obviously are making a little bit of headlines, even if it's not being highly talked about. The report came out last week that Chuck Pagano could be in trouble, which is just honestly unfathomable, to be honest, with the way that he's coached that team. They need some wins this year. They need a big time win at home. I think they're gonna get one. The Jets beat the Browns. I wasn't impressed with the way they looked. I've got the Colts winning and winning handily. I am not impressed with this video at all. I'm not happy with the way it went. So I apologize for that. Like I said, I'm going to just flat out make an excuse here, and it's just I don't feel good. So next week, hopefully, the individual games will be. I'll start picking the games individually. I hope to get more in depth and in detail with that. The problem is I don't want to make these videos too long, so I try to speed through everything, and it just doesn't work well. Don't forget to like the Jam Sports page on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Links, as always, are down there in the description. And that is going to do it for me. I am Jonathan, was up for Jam Sports 100 and the Jam Sports Show, and I will see you guys later.